Good morning. Today is May 12th, 2017. And I hope you guys are doing good today. It's lovely where I am. It's kind of chilly this morning for May. It's still a little chilly in the air, but the sun is shining too. So I like that combination. It's warming up a bit. Anyway, this is not a weather report, despite what it seems to be going in that direction. We want to talk today about something that came to me, another thought experiment, I guess, I don't know, an idea, or just something that came in my thoughts, which had to do with the Garden of Eden, that story from Genesis, and maybe you heard about it. Many of us are familiar with that story of Adam and Eve and how they were put in a garden, the Garden of Eden, and just fast forward to the part where God says to them, now listen, see all these trees? They're yours for the taking. But that tree right there, don't touch it. Don't eat from it. Don't touch it. In fact, don't even look at it. Because you look at it, you're going to want to touch it. And you're going to want to eat from it. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. But, and that was dubbed the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. And so he says, listen, if you do, you're going to die. Whatever that means. I don't know what their experience with death was. I don't know if any of the animals that were living there in the garden with them were susceptible to this phenomena. And so they knew what that meant exactly. So that's the first mention of death as far as I can remember. And it's like, yeah. And then it also says there was a tree of life in there too. But that wasn't the one that they were told not to touch. They were told not to touch the one that was called the tree of knowledge of good and bad. And so then I started thinking about, like, knowledge. What did knowledge mean? And because the way we use the word now, we have an idea. We have an idea in our minds of what knowledge is. To know something means, and you have that information stored in your brain. You have that knowledge. And then I thought, well, is that the knowledge that he was saying? What is knowledge? What was knowledge considered to be? When God said it, because and again, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the story is literal. I'm just, for right now, as we're telling the story, we'll tell it as if it was literal. But anyway, so whoever first uttered this word knowledge, what was the idea? What was the definition of that word? And so I looked it up, and it has to do with experience and it's like a kind of communication, but it's more than just having information stored in your brain. It's something that integrates into your person. You know it. In fact, the word know was also used for when people would have sexual relations in the Bible. If it says he knew her, well, so it shows that it's a certain coming together. So instead of this information just going in the storehouse of your memory, and so you have knowledge. It's more like it has to do with understanding through your experience. And it's okay, so we just put that over to the side now. So now good and bad. What's good and what's bad? Because again, up to that time, it was all good. Remember the Genesis account, after each creative day, it says, that the Creator looked at his work and it was good. Everything was good. So now we've got good and bad. So just kind of putting this all together, it seems like so what? I think many of us understand that account to mean that they ate the fruit, like the serpent said, as soon as you eat this fruit, you're going to be like God and you're going to know good and bad for yourself. Boom. But that's not experience. However, after they ate from the tree, what followed was an experience that they hadn't had before of living in a world of duality, of, am I going to get over yet? Of separation. And you even saw that after they ate it, they were embarrassed. Like before, they were fine. They were frolicking around in the garden all naked and happy, and nobody cared. Nobody was like, oh my God, don't look at me. So right then, that was the first sign. That was the first, repercussion. So, it wasn't some magical fruit though. Well, what happened was they made the decision to live in separateness, a dual nature. So before, they were part of the scene. They were the scene. The animals, the trees, the everything, the sky, whatever. It was one thing together. But then after they made that decision, for whatever reason, they decided to live in a world of good and bad and of separation, division, and that's exactly what ensued. They were no longer they weren't the same anymore. And so that was the first part. And then afterwards, there was more and more and more separation. So that was the thought, that this eating from the tree, whatever that meant, whether it was a literal tree, whatever they did, basically the deciding to experience life differently is what they did. And another thought that came to me, which I don't know if this is just a thought that came, but that the dual nature, instead of saying good and bad, the duality of this world now is pain and pleasure, right? pain and pleasure. They're a pair. So deciding to live that way means that, and when they made that decision, they wanted the pleasure. So she wanted the pleasure of whatever benefits were supposed to come to her from doing this. But she didn't really have complete understanding that that's only one side of the coin. And you're going to get that pleasure, but you're going to also get its marriage partner, which is pain. Wherever there's pleasure, there's pain. Because pleasure is something that we seize. Pleasure is not the same as joy. Joy is something that arises naturally when we are in the flow. Pleasure is when we, just for the sake of keeping this simple, when we that word escaped me now. When we manipulate, don't think of that as a bad word. Just think of manipulate as far as, working it out. When we individually and apart from the whole manipulate whatever, people, situations, whatever, so that we will get pleasure, it also has pain attached to it. And even if that pain is the fear that the pleasurable thing will be taken away from us. Because fear is not a good thing. Not fun. Fear is not fun. But whatever the partner is to the pleasurable thing that we have manipulated into being for ourselves, whatever it is, it's got a partner. There's a two-sided coin again, right? So, and that is the world that the first couple, the pair that we're told about, decided to embark on. That kind of a world. It's hard for us to understand because we live in this world of duality. And everything, it's just that way. That's the nature of this place. But in reality, those things that in this place are good and bad in their separateness, in their togetherness, they're perfect. They're neither good nor bad, pleasure nor pain. They're merged together in the wholeness of everything. And, ooh, good, parking spot. And in doing that, sorry guys, I'm trying to park. And in that togetherness, there's no struggle. There's no, it's together. They fit together. And it works. So, and it's really hard because now we're thinking, okay, so that's good then, right? But instead of saying good, just say perfect, complete, whole. And even these are just words, and it's hard to imagine what that means. As far as the framework of this place, because everything that we say, we visualize, but it's difficult to visualize that in this place, that the merging of the two things that one of them is this and one of them is that, but coming together, it's beautiful and perfect. And what? It's real hard to, even now I'm trying to conceive of something. But anyway, I can't. So I'm not even gonna do that. But okay, so just going back. So one other thing I did want to say is, because good and bad, pleasure and pain feel a certain way in this place. Okay? So let's see. Gosh, can't really think how to break that down. I can't. It just, everything I'm coming up with is ridiculous. But anyway, so hopefully, that was just something to think about, I guess. That's what came to me the other day, is just about pleasure and pain. This was all really about pleasure and pain, and how good and bad possibly are the pleasure and the pain. And we understand, we know the rest of the story. He's like, y'all got to get out the garden now. Eve, guess what? You're going to have babies, and it's going to be the worst pain you could have ever imagined. Adam, you're going to be digging in the ground, and the sun's going to be beating down on you, and you're going to be trying to grow food, and you're hardly going to get any to keep your bodies alive now. And at the end of it all, you're still going to die. So there you go. So that was pain. And sprinkled in there, they probably did things to bring themselves pleasure. But what happened also is they cut themselves off. They became individuals who decided that separateness was something they wanted to experience. And not even so much like they were awful people, because we always put a morality to it, like God told them not to, and they did it, so they were bad. But God, what he did, whatever the story means, whatever went down, was more of a choice. It was a choice. And they made their choice. And sometimes I see good parents with their children, and they give them a choice. They say, listen, you want this thing. Now, if you decide to behave like this, you're going to get the thing. If you behave like that, you're not going to get the thing. That's your choice. And that's it. Not you're an awful, rotten child if you do the thing, but it's your choice. And then if they do it, the parents just like, hey, well, guess what? And whatever, you did the thing, and you knew that the thing would lead to this, and here you go. This is the result of the choice you made. So I think of it kind of that way. They chose to experience her, and who knows how freaking long they had been in the garden without eating from that tree of the knowledge of good and bad, right? They might have been there thousands of years. We don't know. They might have gone a long time without doing that. And then and then she decided to do it, and he decided to do it. And you got, so if you'd been in that situation and a million years had gone by, and that's just, and we're only given probably a snippet of all of the communication that went down. But what we got was the part that's really affecting us today, whatever the story may mean, whether it's symbolic or whatever, and we'll come to realize that. But it's affecting us. So there could have been other trees and other things that were said. And maybe they passed all of everything. They did everything for a very, 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 very long time. Maybe longer than we could even imagine. And maybe they made different choices. Maybe he said, well, if you eat from this one, now this is what's going to happen. If this one, this is going to happen. This and this. Who knows? We don't know. We don't even know anything about those other trees. We're not given a lot of information. We're told about this one tree, which led to a dual-natured world. They might have tried some of the other trees and experienced other stuff too. And then this was one they chose, whatever tree means, just a decision to experience a certain kind of existence. And today we too, we're choosing. Because we're in a position, I think about this too, like, we're in a position where we can exist in harmony with the whole. Instead of forcing situations that's going to bring about pleasure for ourselves, we can exist that way now. Even now. And not have to experience the misery of the pleasure pain, the fear and the this and the that. We can do that right now. So what are we doing? What are we choosing? That doesn't make us evil, but it's our choice. And we've been living for so long in that kind of way where, we're seeking pleasure because many of us, we're just learning that you don't have to grab at it, in a desperate panic to have something good in your life. If you just live naturally and in the flow of things, it's going to happen because it's natural. You're going to be part of the whole and you're going to enjoy all that the whole is because you're it. But we're still moving in that direction and I'm at my destination and this has gone really long. So we'll talk more. Much love.